The new boss, Limbo, has just been released in Korean MapleStory, and it is insane. In this video, I'm going to tell you all we know so far about the boss. Keep in mind that some things like HP values or even boss mechanics can slightly change because it was released in test server only at the moment. There are two difficulties to this boss, normal and hard mode. Both are level 285 bosses, so you'd want to be level 290 to do maximum damage to the boss. What's very interesting about Limbo is that it is a 3-man boss only. This means that the economy will need more bishops than ever. Previously, every party comp had 1 bishop and 5 members. Now it's 1 bishop and 2 members. Let me know how you feel about the boss being a 3-man boss only. Personally, I think it's cool because it combats final damage stacking, but on the other hand, I can easily see how this makes Bishop and something like Battle Mage even more OP. Another thing about this boss is that it can be bound with a normal bind. Bosses like Kaling can only be origin bound, but Limbo can be regular bound too, which makes bursting still pretty important as well. There were a lot of people that were hoping that Limbo is a way more DPS oriented boss. Now, DPS still is important because you can hit the boss for a lot of the time, but it seems that bursting will still be super effective in a boss like this. Let's talk about the aesthetic of the boss real quick. I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough. I think this is the most visually insane boss this game has to offer yet. Everything from the design of all the phases to the load in cutscene is straight up chills. Like, this is actually a scary designed boss for once in this cute ass game. Okay, now let's talk about the drops. Hard Limbo drops the new pitch boss replacement set ring. Normal does not seem to drop it. It also drops the new eternal set shards as well. Collect 10 of them and you can either get an eternal shoe, cape, or glove. The eternal set now goes up to 8 set with 6, 7, and 8 set, all giving 40 attack / magic attack and 15% boss. The craziest thing is that Hard Limbo also drops a eternal set selector box, so you can choose which piece you want straight up instead of having to wait 10 weeks to get a single one. The box drops works like arcane boxes, so it's just RNG and you don't need drop rate to get a higher chance of obtaining it. Now let's talk about some of the boss mechanics. This is all based on first impressions from KMS streamers who tried it out this morning. The boss is 3 phases and each phase has a lot of different mechanics. It seems to be that phase 3 is the hardest one with the most amount of HP as well. There's 2 things that you can mainly look out for in this boss. There's the sanity gauge and the light blue gauge. The sanity gauge is basically your life. It starts at 1000 on the party tab, and if it reaches 0, you die out. And at the top of the screen, it starts at 0, and if it reaches 1000, you die out. It's the same sanity gauge, just displayed in opposite ways. This gauge goes up and down depending on certain mechanics. For example, in P1, if you're outside the bubble, it goes down, but if you stand in the black squares that appear here and there, you can heal it back up. The second light blue gauge can be used to kind of cleanse the walls or other mechanics in the boss. In P3, as the gauge fills up, walls will spawn around the map, and it makes it much harder to dodge stuff, similar to phase 3 will. You can use the gauge to cleanse a wall and get rid of it. It seems to be that the gauge just goes up naturally over time. Also, when the gauge completely fills up, I believe it starts a new test that the party has to overcome together as well. As for phase 2, there's a test in the middle of the phase to break through to the next HP bar that actually looks really funny. You're like standing on a circle and the monster's trying to get you, and if you don't get hit, you pass the test. There's a lot of other mechanics too, so look forward to a boss guide about this when I know a lot more about the boss. Now, another thing to note is that they actually managed to clear normal in the KMS test server, and KMS test server is a lot weaker than the GMS reboot server. So it seems like normal is going to be clearable like on the first day when this boss gets released, but Hard Limbo is the one that's going to be way more difficult to clear. Let's talk about some other things that came out this update as well. Limbo was the big one, but there's some other cool things too. The first one is that just like Limbo, C Kalos, Extreme Kalos, H Culling, and Extreme Culling also drop Eternal Set selector boxes. This is going to make the Eternal Set just so much easier to complete now. Honestly, it's such a good change and I can't wait for it to come over to GMS. Another thing is that boss crystals kind of got reworked on KMS. We don't know if we will get this part of the update because our boss crystals are different to theirs, but I'm still going to mention it. Basically, there's 3 different types of crystals now, daily, weekly, and monthly crystals, and you can still sell only 180 crystals per week. But for the weekly boss crystals specifically, you can only sell 12 of them per week. Apparently this is good in KMS, but I'm not sure how well it will translate over here in GMS if we get it. This is something we're just gonna have to wait and see if we get it or not. The exceptional enhancement system is implemented now as well. Basically, the exceptional enhancements can be hammered off current items and transferred to the new set that's coming out. So for example, on the Lucid Belt enhancement, you could take it off and it turns into a hammer that could be used on any belt that could be enhanced. Hexastat 2 is also out. It's the same as the regular Hexastats, but now we could just do it again to get even more bonus stats. Should be another around 3 to 4% final damage boost in damage. Boss cutscenes can be skipped as well when you press escape. Honestly, this is so huge because seeing the same cutscenes over and over again, every single phase, every time you do a boss is so boring at this point. What's really cool is there's a new choo-choo set type of equip that all players can get that give extra stats. So if you don't know, a choo-choo set is like a NX set that you get kind of like every big event that gives you a lot of bonus stats. And it's just really convenient because it just makes you a little bit stronger. And this set looks really, really good, even just from an NX perspective. I think they definitely designed it well, whereas the choo-choo set just kind of looked not that great, to be honest. And finally, the last big change is that the buff bar on the top right got reorganized. You can see which buffs you have more clearly based off the type of buff. You can also create your own custom buff bar that you can place anywhere on the screen. It's actually so huge, so you can see what you're missing or how long a buff is remaining. We need more UI customization. I think it's a super underrated change about this game that we can still get. That's pretty much everything about the new update. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll try my best to answer them. With that all being said though, if this video helped you out, maybe consider helping me out by subscribing or sharing this video with others. If you want to watch me play MapleStory almost every day live and clear Limbo someday, pull up to my stream. And as always, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much to my beautiful members, Blazefire, Shooms, Uju, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Grim4K, Koga, Pabo, Picolneer, Jesse, Dante Victory, Zats, and CK. I appreciate you guys so much.